Y'all already know. Y'all already know, man. Y'all already know. Norris. Here we go. Hey, yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, man. You already know, Norris back with another video. So I got a new album to react to. For this episode, we're gonna do Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre's Missionary. They released this one last year around December time. It's crazy that I'm reviewing this album this late. Before I start this review, I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the music that I have to drop in the near future. So the new song The Letter M, that's dropping for January 14th, 12 o'clock a.m. right on the dot. That's about a few days from now, so make sure you guys check that out on all platforms. I got another track afterwards for the 24th, but I'll talk more about that after I drop The Letter M. Single Player Gaming, that's the first track I dropped so far this year. Check that track out. New album Lights Camera Actors, that's dropping for June 4th of this year. So that's a new album I'm releasing for this year. Make sure you check it out for June 4th. Just like every other episode, I'm going to play 4 tracks off of the album, a snippet of each track, give you guys an idea of how this album sounds like. Then I'm going to start talking about the album in my own point of view, give you guys my full perspective of this album, a rating at the end of the video, a little bit of a conclusion. I'm playing all these songs off of the YouTube channel, not off of the SoundCloud channel, just because I couldn't find this album on SoundCloud. So the first track I'll play, this one's called Thank You.
Close calls, some big whales, got fish scales, that snowfall.
This one's called Out of the Blue.
This is the big ticket. Culture Compton, I'm talking that King Richard.
This one's called Skyscrapers featuring Method Man and Smitty.
To do numbers on your bitch ass. My young black entrepreneur, stack paper, skyscrapers, get you some motherfucking haters. And my young rap entrepreneurs reach the goals, fuck them hoes through the concrete, through a road.
This one's called Now or Never featuring BJ the Chicago Kid.
Up with Martha Stewart, know you niggas smell the scent. Hood nigga to Hollywood, I must have had a sixth sense. Nah, I turned into the nigga I'm supposed to be. See, walking on that Nipsey Hustle blue with poster read. Thank you to the DOC that opened up that door for me.
Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, Missionary. My first thoughts, man, I don't think I've heard Snoop Dogg rap at this level in a long time. This might be his best lyrical performance in a really long time, man. Maybe since Doggy Style, his first album he's ever released. Honestly, Snoop Dogg's one of my favorite rappers growing up, but saying that, I never thought he was the best at the lyrical side when it came to rapping. He's really good at making his songs accessible for everyone to understand. He's very fluent when it comes to making lines that everyone can understand, which is why he's so good at making hits. Even like back in the days, he has so much hits in his resume, and a big part of that is his ability to make hard-hitting punchlines that are easy to understand for everyone. That's a skill within itself. That's not the easiest thing to do. Most rappers are pretty abstract with their lines. Only a few people will understand it right away, and like it'll take some other people a little bit more time to understand what the metaphor or the simile means. But Snoop Dogg has the ability to make it understandable almost immediately. So that's one of the things that I always thought Snoop Dogg was a legend at. He shows that a little bit, but it's like he takes it to another level. I feel like Snoop Dogg got better in terms of his like punchlines and his songwriting. I think he's gotten better over the years. This album shows that. It's like a perfect example of that. Definitely in terms of albums, it's one of Snoop Dogg's best lyrical performances in my opinion. And in terms of the production, Dr. Dre is responsible for the majority of the album. It's Dr. Dre's best production work since 2001. 100%, man. It doesn't sound like Dre lost it at all, and even his beat making, it sounds like he's gotten better at that over the years. So another thing I really enjoyed about the album, the fact that Snoop Dogg does most of the vocals on the album. Dr. Dre can rap. He has the ability. He's had ghostwriters before in the past. We all know Dr. Dre wasn't that good of a rapper, even like back in the day when he released The Chronic. It's known as a classic. When you listen to his rapping on that album, it's a good example. It's a classic, but the rapping is still, at least not on Snoop Dogg's level. Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre as rappers and understanding like hip hop, the genre itself, the art form, they got a good understanding on like who should take on the lead vocals on this album. Dr. Dre does what he does best, and that's producing. He produces the album fully. Snoop Dogg does most of the vocals on the album, and that's how it should be. And it makes the album definitely better. Smart way of like planning the album as a whole. This album is very well put together overall. The production's strong, the vocals are strong, the features, they're all great, not just like famous names to sell the music. Everything sounds like it took a while in terms of like the planning and the thought process before any beat or any songs were written. It just sounds like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg took their time with this album, planning and the production and putting everything together, like the track listing, the meaning of the album, the name of the album, the names in terms of the track listing, picking out the features, picking out the samples. Every part about the production of the whole album sounds like they spent, I won't say years, but many months trying to like figure out how they want this album to sound like. Throughout the album, a lot of different artists are featured on this album. It's not just rappers featured on here, which is another part that I liked about the album. You got guys like Method Man, Jelly Roll, Tom Petty, Sting, Benny the Butcher, Eminem, 50 Cent. You got a lot of different artists featured on this album, making it sound more diverse, making it more entertaining and fun for everyone to listen to, no matter what generation it is. But like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, they've been those type of artists that everyone sort of appreciates, not just like the hip hop heads, but they're pretty much all around when it comes to like their fans and how popular they are. They're from the early 90s, late 80s. That's when they started up until this point. If they really wanted to, they can probably run a world tour, Dr. Dre or even Snoop Dogg. They're still that famous worldwide, especially Snoop Dogg. He's definitely right up there with the most famous rappers to ever do it in history. Might be the most famous rapper to ever do it. Out of the West Coast, alongside Tupac and Kendrick Lamar, you can definitely put Snoop Dogg's name there. Just like I was saying, man, Dr. Dre definitely on point, Snoop Dogg on point. The samples used throughout the album, there's a lot of songs that are very like memorable, a lot of old hits used as samples for this album. You're going through the album and you'll be hearing songs in the samples that sort of brings back memories. Like for myself, that was the case. No surprise, Dr. Dre's one of the best producers to ever do it. I really enjoyed the songs that he chose to sample for this album. It gives it like a different sound compared to other past albums we've heard from Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. Yeah, so Dr. Dre is a great producer, and on top of that, he doesn't really like sample that often compared to other like legendary producers from back in the day. Sampling was a very popular style of producing from like those days way back. He never really sampled that often. He would actually like play a lot of the instruments whenever he produces, especially on like 2001 and on The Chronic. He's actually playing out the bass lines and playing out the harmonies with like the actual instruments. Like he can play piano. Dr. Dre can play instruments, right? It's interesting to see the type of songs that Dr. Dre sampled for this album. Most of the beats on the album are heavily sampled. There's a few songs on the album where he's actually taken the full out song, especially with the Sting track. Snoop Dogg's just rapping over the song. There's like a few times where Dr. Dre does that, which is impressive. It's a different way of making the song in terms of production, and it just gives off like a different sound overall. We got another big time album here, man. Another one from 24. Just like I keep saying, man, 2024 is gonna get looked at as one of the best years for rap music, especially for the albums that came out that year. A lot of great albums from the rap genre. You know, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre with this album here. Another one on the list. There's basically nothing bad I can say about the album. Personally, I really enjoyed this album. Probably Snoop Dogg's best lyrical performance in a really long time. Maybe since like The Dogfather or Doggy Style, one of those two. I'll probably say Doggy Style. Dr. Dre's best performance since 2001 with like the production. All the features did their thing, man. Absolutely just a really well put together album, man. And it sounds like they've been working on this album for a long time. Like they spent like a year putting everything together. So anytime you get an album like that, it's gonna be hard to say something bad about it. In terms of a rating, I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10. Actually, like, there's nothing bad I can say about it. Like, Snoop Dogg went off, man. He's got a lot of lines on here, man. Like, you gotta really pay attention to what Snoop Dogg's saying, and like, you usually don't have to do that. I was saying before, he's probably the GOAT rapper in terms of making simple lines that everyone can understand. He made it a little more complex on this album in terms of his punchlines. There's a lot of lines on here that he comes up with that you really have to like think about just a bit to really understand the full metaphor or simile. So like, he has tons of lines on here that impressed me, and Dr. Dre did his thing, man. Like, the production's crazy on here, bro. 10 out of 10, man. Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Missionary. I appreciate you guys watching today's episode. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, comment. Got a lot more of these videos dropping in the future, a lot more music to drop. Also, check out The Letter M dropping for January 14th. That's all I got for this episode, and I appreciate you guys, man. And
y'all already know. Y'all already know, man. Y'all already know. Snoop and Norris. Here we go. Hey.